Radium Engineering multi-pump surge tank. You had questions, I'm going to give you the answers. Hello everybody, welcome back to Bad Luck Garage. So a couple weeks ago, actually it's been almost a month ago, I posted some pictures where I had ordered this Radium multi-pump surge tank, and you guys responded with a ton of questions. Then a couple days ago, when it finally came in, it was on back order for 3 weeks. You guys had a ton more questions about, the surge tank, how it works, why I chose a surge tank, why I chose this particular one, what size fuel lines I was going to run, all kinds of questions. So while I'm not going to get this installed today, I did want to kind of go over it, explain to you how a surge tank works, why I chose this over some other cheaper options, and basically just answer all the questions you guys had asked me. So we'll start off with what a surge tank is and why you may need one. Okay, so here's the deal. Back when we had Project Steppenwolf, I learned real fast that the factory fuel injection baffles in in most fuel tanks are not meant to handle the G's generated by high horsepower acceleration. And what I mean by that is we had an issue in Project Steppenwolf. Even though we were using a baffled fuel injection tank, when it would come into boost, if I had anything less than a quarter tank, it would actually wash the fuel over the baffle and the fuel pump would suck air, and we would get a massive lean pop or lean backfire, whatever you want to call it. Eventually this ended up, knocking a piston out. So, I try to learn as much as I can when I do stuff like this. And one thing I decided with Chaos Theory was right from the start, I'd already decided I was going to go with a surge tank. Basically what this does, guys, is no matter how hard you're accelerating, how hard you're cornering, whatever, the fuel pumps in this surge tank will always be submerged in fuel. So you don't ever have to worry about a lean pop, from running out of fuel or from aeration or anything like that. Now, one of the questions that you guys asked me is, how exactly does a surge tank work? Well, here's what happens, guys. Basically, there are going to be fuel pumps mounted in this. This is an internal pump tank, meaning the fuel pumps are mounted inside. They also make surge tanks for external pumps, but this one is for internal, but they both basically work the same way. You'll notice here you have a supply, you have a return, you have an overflow, and you have a pump out. Here's what goes on, guys. In my case, I'm using the stock tank, and we'll go ahead and answer another question right now. Part of the reason I wanted to use a surge tank is because I wanted to leave the stock tank in place to maintain stock capacity for holding fuel. The reason I wanted to do that is because I do plan to possibly drag week, power tour, things like that with this car. So I want to be able to hold as much fuel as possible. Okay, so that's why I didn't want to just go to a little fuel cell setup and, a sump and an external pump and all that. So that's why I went with the surge tank. This is going to allow me to retain my stock fuel tank, retain the pump that's in it. That's the thing about a surge tank. It really doesn't matter how large the pump is in your stock tank. With this guy in place, you can feed a 2,000 horsepower plus engine, and still leave the stock TBI pump in your fuel tank. So here's how it works. The pump in your fuel tank goes to the supply line here. Your old feed goes to the supply, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to cycle the key forward a couple times. It's going to fill this thing completely up. I mean to the top, all right? Your old return line that used to go back to your stock tank from the engine, it's going to go to this overflow line. So what that means is, if this thing has too much fuel in it, like, it's full to the top, can't get any more, it's going to start pushing that excess fuel back into your stock fuel tank. The pumps inside here are what actually supply the fuel to the engine. So you'll have your main line coming out, going to your engine, then your return line coming back from your engine will go to the return. Now, you might ask, if you've got 3 freaking 450 pumps in here, how the hell is my stock fuel pump going to keep up with that? Well, it's not, and it doesn't have to, because you see, number one, this thing is going to be full all the time, okay? Number two, it's not just your stock fuel pump that's feeding it through the supply. You're also getting your return fuel that's not being used by your engine going back in here. So basically, this thing just, as I said earlier, it stays full all the time. It's never going to drop below full. As a matter of fact, you're going to find that in most cases, it's going to be pumping a hell of a lot of fuel. It's probably going to be pumping more fuel through the overflow back into your tank than what's actually going into it from the supply. So that should pretty much, answer a couple of the questions right off the bat. Why did I want a surge tank? Well, because I wanted to keep the stock fuel tank, but I didn't want to have to worry about fuel pump washout or aeration. So, this was the best option. Now, why did I choose this particular one? Well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I reached out to a couple companies, and I actually had another company that offered me a huge discount on their tank, and the reason I didn't go with it is it just didn't have all the features I was looking for. So one of the features I was looking for in my surge tank is I wanted the ability to have 3 pumps if necessary. Now, starting out, I'm only going to have 2. I'm going to have 2 Walbro 450s in here. I already have those. I haven't installed them yet. But this particular tank allows me the ability to put in a 3rd pump if I ever need it. And trust me, at some point in the future, we probably will need the 3rd pump. Another feature that made me choose this particular surge tank is the fact that all 3 pumps or 2 pumps or 1 pump, you can run as many as you want in here, 1, 2, or 3, they all feed into a central output or, a central feed line. Now, why that's important for me is a lot of the tanks that I was looking at, every pump had its own output, which meant I was going to have to plumb in, T's or, exit, however you want to look at it, Y's. I was going to have to tie all those lines together downstream. That's just more connections, more possibilities for a leak, which brings me to yet another reason that I chose this. Radium Engineering actually designs these to be mounted in the trunk of your car. And what I mean by designs them to be mounted in the trunk is, number one, it says right on their website, the way this is designed is to fit a lot of uneven areas that you might find in the trunk of your car. Yeah, it actually says that on the website. And number two, they have went to great lengths to make sure this thing is leak proof. Okay, some of the other surge tanks that I was looking at, in addition to not having the central output for up to 3 pumps, the main one I was looking to go with, and the one that had offered me a huge discount, it only had 3 retaining screws for the lid. Now that made me real nervous because we're going to be mounting this in the hatch area. I'll show you where in a minute. But I couldn't help but think to myself, if you've only got 3 retaining screws in this lid, that's really not applying force evenly along the whole circumference of the seal. And, I would be really nervous to put that inside the vehicle, in the trunk, the hatch area, anywhere. And yet another feature that helped me make up my mind on this particular surge tank is this level switch here. Now, what this is, right now there's a plug in it, but for $80 more, I can buy an optional switch that goes in here. And basically what it does, it hangs down about this far inside the surge tank. And if the surge tank ever gets below that level, and I'm telling you, like I said earlier, this thing should always be full. So if it drops down even this far, something's wrong. Either you're running out of fuel in your main tank, or you've sprung a leak in your main tank or in your return line. Something's wrong, okay? So with this switch here, you've got several options. You can either run it to a light, so it'll light up a warning light and let you know, hey, something's wrong with your fuel level. Or in my case, with the Holly, I can actually have that trigger something in the Holly to shut the engine down. Just completely shut it off. That way I don't have to worry about, going lean or something like that, because again, if the fuel level drops below full in this thing at all, that means there's a feed problem somewhere, and you know, I don't want to continue making a pass if I'm losing fuel, because once it gets down to here, I'm screwed. Now, to show you more of the features that made me choose this Radium, and I want to say right now, guys, I am not sponsored at all by Radium Engineering. As a matter of fact, they had on their website, I was going to apply for a sponsorship, and they had, you know, basically the message was, don't even bother, we're not doing sponsorships right now. So I paid full price for this, guys, so everything I'm saying is straight from the heart. I'm telling you why I chose this. So we're going to open this up, and I'm going to show you a few more features that made me choose this. Our bolts out, we lift the lid off. So you look in here, nothing special, just really thick aluminum and a replaceable square O-ring gasket. So between this square O-ring gasket and the 9 screws and the very thick lid, this is very thick, like this is not flimsy at all. There's pretty much zero chance that you're going to leak out the side. If you do get a little kink or something in this gasket somehow, like, I don't know, maybe you took it out and dropped it or set something on it and you don't trust it, you can order a new gasket from them for, I think it's just like a couple dollars. So that was another reason I chose this. Again, that goes back to the fact that this is going to be mounted inside the car. Don't want to have to worry about leaks. Now, going inside here, here's the sensor hole I was telling you about. If you want to run the sensor, here's where it comes out. Now, here's where it holds all your pumps, guys. And again, this holds the Walbro 450 series pump. Radium does make these in dual pump, single pump, external pump, and they make them in configurations for other pumps, you know, like the, what is it, the Deutsch Works, or I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but they're brushless pumps, the AEM pumps. I mean, they make these for all different kinds of pumps. But if you look up in here, you'll see what you got going on. These are actually, each pump has its own port here, and they all run together into that central outlet. You're just using one pump. It comes with plugs. I'll show you those in a minute. Plugs that you can screw in to block off the other ports, or if you're running 2, you can just screw a plug in to block off 1. That's what I'm going to be doing. And this is designed, you know, you can run stage pumps. They each have their own positive and negative there, so you can trigger them all separately. So if, for instance, what I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to be running one pump at idle, and I'm going to have the second pump have either a Hobbs switch or have the Holly trigger the second pump to come on under boost when it's needed. And since the pumps that I'm going to be using, the Walbro 450 E85 pumps, since they have check balls in them, you know, when the one pump's not running, you shouldn't have to worry about it backflowing and dropping pressure or anything like that. Now, here's another feature that I didn't quite understand, but it kind of made sense to me. If you look right here, you'll notice the supply line, which would be your old supply line from your stock tank, which is now going to be putting fuel in, and the return line coming back from the engine. They both go into the same passage here, but that passage is actually designed to flow the fuel outward in this direction, causing a swirling motion. Now, the way they describe it on their website, that's supposed to help decrease aeration. Instead of returning the fuel all the way down at the bottom where it might aerate and, you know, cause the pumps to not suck as much fuel, maybe suck some of the air in. You know, that's just supposed to be the design, guys. It's supposed to constantly keep the fuel swirling within the surge tank there. Yet another cool feature of this surge tank is you will not be using the sock filters that come with your, you know, with your Walbro pumps. Instead, you have this micro screen, stainless steel screen here. After you put your pumps on, this screen will actually screw on here, and that's your strainer. I'm not sure if I can get it on camera, but your pumps, you know, the input from your pump is actually going to fit in these holes on each one of these. So this is your screen now, guys. This guy right here. So you don't have to worry about trying to shove a bunch of sock filters down in this thing or anything like that. That's going to strain everything. And again, the fuel that's coming into this will have already been strained through the sock in your primary tank as well. So you're pretty much, you're getting the benefit of double filtration there. This thing does come with all the hardware. It even comes with shrink wrap there, all the terminals you need, to run your wiring for your pumps. It comes with one harness installed for the wall roll pump there, and again, these harnesses, like this part of the kit is pump specific. Whatever kind of pumps you ordered this for, you'll get the harness that matches those pumps. But we got one harness already installed. We got 2 harnesses in the bag. We got our fuel injection hose and clamps. We got our little block off plugs I told you about right there. That I was asked actually brings me to the only beef I have with this unit. I mean, I'm totally happy with this thing, but they did one thing with this unit that doesn't make sense to me. So the output is actually threaded for a 10 orb, pretty much 5/8 feed, or -10 feed. But anyway, it's tapped for a 10 orb fitting. And then all of these are tapped for 8 orb fitting. Well, they tapped it for a 10 orb here, but then they put a 10 orb to -8 fitting in there, which makes no sense to me. Like, why would you tap it for -10 and put a -8 in there? It's almost like, they're forcing you to have to buy more fittings. And then on these here, I can see the -6. These are all 8 orb fittings, but they're 8 orb to -6 fittings is what's included with it, and they don't give you an option to choose. Okay, now it makes sense on the supply and the overflow, because that's coming from your stock fuel pump, so it really doesn't matter. I mean, you could even you could do a -4. I mean, it really doesn't matter on those two, but on your return, I'm going to be running a -10. That was a question that was asked, is, what size feed and return am I going to be running? Well, I'm going to be running -6 to and from my stock tank. And I'm going to be running a -10 main feed all the way up to the engine bay. And then I'm going to be running a -8 return. So my whole point with that, my beef with this is, I feel like if it's tapped for for a 10 orb, they should have included a -10 fitting instead of a -8. And if this is this tapped for a -8 orb, then it should have came with a -8 fitting. So I did have to buy a -10 fitting and a -8 fitting for this one. They're already here. They're actually in the house. I ordered them a couple days ago, and they came in. So that's my only beef with it, really, is I feel like, their selection of fittings didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, who the hell's going to run 3 freaking Walbro 450 pumps through a -8 line anyway? That's kind of stupid in my opinion. And that's why I think they did this on purpose, just to force you to buy more fittings from them. But yeah, joke's on them. I bought my fittings elsewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we're going to set this up in the car, and then we'll go ahead and install the 2 pumps that I already have for it. So in the back of the car, most of you guys already know, we've got our battery and our switch panel and everything over here. We've already got our relays and everything wired up for this thing. I just have to run the wires across. So here's where we're putting it, guys. Over here on this side, we've got our little glove box guy here, and this is where she's going to be. Now, of course, we're going to be taking the cardboard out of here, and I'm most likely going to be making just kind of like a little sheet metal box to go in there. But all of our lines will be coming in right through here. Our stock fuel tank is right here. So basically what's going to happen is our feed, and our old feed and return lines from this tank are going to loop around under the car. They're going to come in, they're going to tie in right here. This will probably be just a little bit lower, but pretty much that's it. Then we'll have our pump out line going through here, and of course our return line going through here up to the front of the engine. Now, why did I choose to put it here? That's pretty simple, guys. I wanted quick access to it, and GM was nice enough to provide me a place to put it right there anyway. So it seemed to be the perfect spot. I know some of you guys might be kind of worried about putting it here, but again, Radium Engineering actually designed these tanks to go in the trunk. So that's where we're going to put it. I've got easy access here, so I should be able to get to everything. You know, if God forbid I do have some kind of leak for whatever reason, you know, all I've got to do is open this guy up and I can get to everything right here. Again, we're going to build this out a little bit, so I've got a little more room to reach in here with wrenches or whatnot in case of an emergency if I have to get to anything. As an example, this back wall right here, it only goes to about right here, so you know we're going to extend it all the way over. Yeah, in a nutshell, guys, I'll have full access to it if there's some kind of an emergency or something like that. Now, originally I had thought about saving a little money and going with the other brand. I know a lot of people like to run the surge tank and just put it up here like where the battery would have went or something. Obviously I can't do that with my setup, and when we do the twin turbos on here, you know, the pipes are going to be going through the same way, so there's no place up here for me to put it. You know, things may change in the future, guys. Once we do a tubular front end on this, I might stick it up here in the nose somewhere, but I doubt it. Like I keep saying, Radium Engineering actually designed it to be in a trunk, so with all the safety features it's got and everything, I think we're good to put it right here where I want to put it. So I think that about answers all the questions you guys had asked me. So we're going to go over here right now and go ahead and get our pumps installed. Now I want to make sure I give a huge shout out to Phil Bretthauser. He is actually the one who hooked me up with these two Walbro 450 pumps, gave me a killer deal on them. So thanks again, Phil. I really appreciate it. As I said earlier, it comes with the pigtails here to just go ahead and plug straight into a Walbro pump. So no wiring drama there. We're gonna set the pump in there. I just want to kind of see how everything's going to line up. Yeah, see, you got the little nub that sticks out the bottom of your pump. It's going to coincide with that hole there, so it's going to align your pump exactly where it needs to go, and the pump's not going to be able to move anywhere once you have that rubber line on. So I'm going to take one of my rubber lines here, I'm going to put it on my pump, put it on there, and we'll be right back. So I wanted to show you how well designed this is. They actually designed this with a clearance here so that once you slip this on, there is just enough room between here for the clamp to face outward so you can easily get a wrench or a screwdriver on it to tighten it up. I mean, they put a lot of thought into this, guys, when they engineered this. I know it seems like a lot of money, and I didn't tell you how much it was, but this particular model is probably the most expensive model they made, and it was $503. That is a lot of money, especially to me. But again, I should never have to upgrade this, guys. It doesn't matter if this car eventually makes it to, say, 1,500 horsepower or something like that. This surge tank is still going to keep up. Maybe not with, well, yeah, 3 450s running through dash 10 line might keep up with that. If not, we can throw 3 525 pumps in here. The point is, you know, it doesn't really matter how far I want to take chaos theory. I should never have to upgrade the fuel system again after I do this, and that was kind of the point, guys, why I spent so much money. And I still have to buy my fuel line, which is going to be all PTFE fuel line, especially since this is going to be in the trunk of the car. We don't want to have to worry about smelling the ethanol or anything. So we are going to be running PTFE fuel lines, dash 6, dash 8, and dash 10. That's going to be very expensive, and you know, we're going to need all the fittings too. So yeah, I'm looking at probably another around $400 for fittings and lines. So all in all, I don't even want to talk about how much I'm going to have in the fuel system. But again, I should never have to upgrade. So that's what's important, is that, you know, this fuel system should last me a lifetime, should last me, you know, the entire time I have this car, which I've already said, guys, I don't plan on ever getting rid of it. This is going to be pump 1. Pump 2, the outputs are here, but you want to kind of probably try to wrap them around so they're not right on top of it. It'll just make the wiring easier, trust me. So we're going to put pump 2 here and then pump 3 here. So what we're going to do, since we don't have a pump 3 yet, is we're going to take one of our little plugs here that they included, and you'll notice it's got the little E85 compatible O-ring on it there, and we'll use that to block off pump 3. And now again, like I mentioned earlier, you can see how the head of the clamp actually fits into this little slot, so you can still access it with a wrench from the outside. It just makes the installation a whole lot easier. So we got that on. We're going to put our hose on for pump 2, and then we'll go ahead and slip our pumps in there. Just figured out a little trick to get these aligned without having to constantly set that bracket back on. So if you look, this little square guy that sticks up right here on these Walbro pumps where the connectors are, if you line that up with the recess for the hose clamp, then everything's going to be lined up for that bracket. They really did think of everything. All right, so my pumps are on, my plug's in. At this point, I'm going to set my bracket on, which should line right up with these guys. Yep, there we go. Put our long bolt through the center. And I think this is just used mainly to adjust maybe the tension, the amount of tension that's going to be on the bottom of the pumps. But we're just using it as a guide to hold things in place and put all our screws back in our bracket. Now, one question I forgot to answer, somebody actually asked me yesterday on the group page on Facebook if they needed to run one of these with the fuel cell. Well, it wouldn't hurt, but if you've got a sumped fuel cell and you're running an external pump, you really don't have to have one of these. But again, it never hurts. I mean, if you just wanted that extra insurance, but generally, at least up to a certain horsepower level, you're going to be fine with a sumped fuel cell. But just to give you guys an idea, if you ever watch somebody that's building like a, you know, really high horsepower car, just about all the guys that are running like 2,500 horsepower cars and shit, they're all running surge tanks, guys. A lot of them, you know, they have surge tanks mounted up in the nose of their car. You'll see that a lot of times they'll have like a little 1 or 2 gallon fuel cell, and then right next to it you'll see a surge tank. So, or some people call them a swirl pot, you know, whatever. It's the same purpose either way. It's just to make sure they don't have to worry about running out of fuel. So it all depends on what level you're at. I mean, horsepower wise, like I said, my main reason for this was because I wanted to keep the stock fuel pump for like power cruises and things like that, where I was, you know, possibly going to be driving this car a long distance, and also to prevent, you know, fuel pump washout. Since I like to run internal pumps, they tend to be less noisy than a high horsepower inline pump. And again, guys, since this is going to be in the interior, even though I'm going to have insulation back there, you know, both of these pumps when they come on might be pretty loud, but one of them isn't going to be too loud, shouldn't be, and both of them aren't going to be running at the same time unless I'm wide ass open, and at that point I really don't care how much noise they're making anyway. So all right, so we got that in there. We got our bracket on. We need to tighten up our center screw or our center bolt, and I think this guy was just kind of snug, so I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on him. Now you can kind of see how our filter works now. See, all of these are feeding from this big open cavity here. You can see that on all of them, big open cavity, right? So this is going to seal against those big open cavities and you know, filter any fuel that's coming in. So we're going to go ahead and get the screws out and put this guy on. And I think I may have opened my mouth too soon a while ago when I was bragging about how everything was a size 3, because these guys here might be a 2 or possibly even smaller. Get them all started here and then we'll see. I do want to say too, I guess I have a second beef with this in that it didn't come with any instructions, which, I mean, you can go on their website and you can see, you know, what it's supposed to look like when everything's together. But not only did it not come with instructions, they didn't even give me a decal, guys. And I'm over here thinking, you know, for $500 freaking dollars, y'all could have at least threw a damn decal in for me to stick on my toolbox or something, right? Radium Engineering, if somehow you ever see this video, I doubt you will, but if you do, you should really put some decals in. Hell, for $500, you ought to throw a damn t-shirt in with it. Just my opinion. Onto the harness for pump 2, which is these 2 prongs here. So we'll go under here. We got positive. I'm positive. That's positive. Got our little nut. Goes on there. Ah, these are actually lock nuts. Interesting. So they're making sure they don't come back off on you. That's awesome. So they're directional. You got to put the little, I don't know if it's showing up, but you see the little indentions? You got to have those facing up. That's why I was having trouble getting it started, because that's the part that locks it down. Yeah. So it'll only go so far, then you got to cinch that baby down, which I'm guessing, yep, 10 millimeter. So we'll just plug, see that's pump 1, yep. Plug pump 1 into pump 1. And pump 2 into pump 2. Where you at? There we go. Now we should be able to, the only thing is we don't want to block anything. So we'll shove this connector right over here. I think what they want you to do is tuck each connector in like that behind each bar. So just like that. Yeah, kind of like that. That makes sense. Yeah, that way the clip kind of holds it there a little bit. It's not flopping around. Yeah, that makes total sense. They really did think of everything, guys. But so there it is. The pumps are mounted up. Make sure our O-ring is seated properly, and drop this guy back down in here. Just like that. Perfect fit, perfect alignment. And we'll put our 9 screws back in the top. Now, you go around tighten this up. You want to go around just snug them all down, then go back around. And I've already put this lid back on once. I mean, you'll feel them just snugging down. You want to just keep going around in a circle, snug, 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 until they're, you know, you're confident that they're down all the way and the O-ring's fully seated. The last thing you want to do, I don't think you could warp this lid. I think it's so thick, aluminum, I think you would probably strip a screw hole out before you warp the lid, but why take any chances, right? Like, this thing's going to be, well, if you mount the way they tell you to, it's going to be inside the vehicle, so you definitely don't want anything warped or stripped or leaking. And now that we got that back together, we will address these fittings that I was complaining about. So for the overflow and the supply, we're going to leave the -6s. For the return, we're going to get rid of the -6. And again, this is an 8 orb, and we are going to put a -8 orb fitting in there. So we're going to get rid of the 6. Big difference there. I'm going to get rid of the 6, go to the 8. And what I'm actually going to do, because the fittings that I got just had standard O-rings on there, and I want these E85 compatible O-rings, so I'm going to swap out the O-rings and put the E85 O-ring on my new fitting here. That way we don't have to worry about any deterioration or leaking. And over here, our -10. Again, we will swap him out. Well, it's a 10 orb to a -8, and I bought a 10 orb to a -10. So again, you can see the difference there. A lot bigger. And we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to swap out the O-rings on the bottom. And that's pretty much it, guys. It's ready to install as soon as I get my fittings and my hose. As a matter of fact, what I might do is I might go ahead and you know, finish running my wiring over to it, go ahead and get it installed in there. I think I'm going to, well, I know I'm going to take the cardboard insert out of that glove box in the back, and I'll probably use it as sort of a template to make a sheet metal insert to go in place of the cardboard. Yeah, just in case. But that's it, guys. So if you got any more questions that I didn't answer in this video, feel free to go ahead and ask them down in the comment section below, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability, at least for a couple months. If this video is 3 years old, just read through the comments, because your question's probably already been answered by then. But barring that, I'll put a link in the video description. It'll be like an eBay search link to this tank. But again, this might not be the one you want. You might just want a dual tank setup, or a single tank, or I'm sorry, a dual pump setup, or a single pump setup, or an external pump setup. Radium does have all of those. I will tell you right now, the single pump setups the external pump setups are way cheaper than these internal pump setups. I think some of the external pump setups are like $100 and something, you know, compared to this one, which was $500. But they're not as elaborate either, though. With the external pump, basically all you have is an aluminum tank with a, you know, with these 3 fittings on it. and then an output, and that's it, because there's no pumps inside, so you won't have all this mess, and the tank will be a lot smaller because it won't have to hold as much. Anyway, guys, I hope this video helped you out, and I hope you kind of have an understanding as to how this, this whole surge tank thing works, and why I decided to go this way. So that's it for me on this one. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, if you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Then after that, get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.